Hey guys, I'm off the grid for August, and here's Joe Rogan making some sense, and maybe it'll trickle up to the mainstream. You never know.
The US is in a recession at the moment, but it's not allowed to be called a recession.
Well, the government's trying to not call it a recession, but it's...
Wikipedia article got changed. You see this?
Really?
Oh, dude.
No.
So
They redefined recession?
Yep. So recession used to be 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth.
Right. Not anymore?
Not on Wikipedia.
When was this?
Jamie, get the Wikipedia thing up, because this is wild.
How long ago did they change it?
This weekend.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I saw it got locked because people were fucking with it, is what I read. But I don't know how much of that was. But this is the definition when you type in Google, which is the same thing.
So a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP in 2 successive quarters. So in Google, it's still the same. In Wikipedia, let's look at what it says. Recession is a business cycle contraction where there's a general decline in economic activity. Recessions generally occur when there is a widespread drop in spending or an adverse demand shock. This may be triggered by various events such as financial crisis, an external trade shock, an adverse supply shock, bursting. Okay, here it is. A recession is defined by the National Bureau of Economic Research as a significant decline in economic activity spread across the market lasting more than a few months. Normally visible in real GDP, real income, employment, industrial production, and wholesale retail sales. So
in the UK,
it's defined as that.
In the UK, it's defined as a negative economic growth for 2 consecutive quarters. So
that got changed.
So that's what's changed, that the United States used to define it as 2 consecutive quarters, and now we don't anymore?
And people have pulled it up on the archive. So a bunch of advisors, economic advisors, have got quotes of them saying what a recession is, especially when Donald Trump was in office, there is a recession that's coming. It's negative GDP growth for 2 consecutive quarters.
Right.
And then this weekend, people are asking them, are we in a recession? Because the second quarter economics just came out, and it's 0.9 decline again.
Have you seen the White House press secretary define the economy as being strong and the best economy we've had in over a decade? Have you seen her do that?
No.
It's hilarious. It's like the wildest gaslighting, because she's doing all of these political hand maneuvers that people do. You know those moves that people do with their hands when they're talking and they're trying to display like confidence and control? And there's like, it's literally like political pantomiming.
The bizarre thing about the recession situation is the fact that it doesn't matter what you call it, right? You can call it fucking paradise if you want, but it's still shit.
Right.
Like all of the criteria of what's happening indicates a recession.
Yes.
And the reason obviously is that you've got midterms coming up, and you need to make sure that is in a recession is not something that can be thrown at the Democrats.
Yes, right.
It's a protectionist strategy.
Yes. So no, don't use that word.
Well, it's not. It's not, because it's not defined in that way.
Right.
That's not the accepted definition.
Right.
Well, it was until very, very, very recently.
That's wild. Well, that's gaslighting. And just that alone, is people would think that it's trivial because they are talking about this economic downturn, but it's not trivial because we've always used that term recession. And we've always used that term to define whether or not the economic policies that are currently in place and whether or not the management and the government has done a good job of making sure that the economy stays in a good place. They definitely haven't done that. So in order to escape that, that sort of distinction, they're literally changing the definition, which is terrible. And it should be pushed back against in a big way. It should be something that people get angry about. Like, hey, you're fucking with definitions in order to pretend that you're doing a good job.
Well, the reason that you attach a sequence of letters to something, right, is to represent what that thing is. You don't change reality by changing what those words actually mean.
Right.
But if you can't control the economy, you might as well just control the language and hope for the best.
God. What a bunch of weasels.